I'm going to talk about fully configured PCPs and their crypto applications, especially applications to MPC. This is based on a list. These are two words. There's another that's sort of, we're trying to push it along now. These are joint works with Yuval Shai, Lev Boyle, Henry Corrigan Gibbs, Dan Bonet, and Ariel Nuff. What is our goal? So this is about MPC, but it's not everything about MPC. I'm going to focus on one general area of MPC. So one general goal. And this is the goal. So we have some MPC protocol. We have a bunch of parties, and a majority of them are good. They're in green. And pretty small of them, maybe a few, but minority, they're bad. They're in red. And they want to compute some function. So this function f, and we can think about different forms of adversaries. Now, suppose we have a semi-honest adversary. In that case, you've heard several talks about all kinds of great protocols for that setting. And now, we want to turn this protocol for a semi-honest adversary into another protocol in which the adversary is not semi-honest, it's malicious. We want to do it in the following way. So first we have the original protocol, and all the parties do whatever they need to do. And then in the second part, they prove that what they did was correct. And we want to do it, that's the whole point, we want to do it very efficiently, with very low communication. Now, in most MPC protocols, the communication is the main efficiency bottleneck. So our goal here is basically to have a protocol for malicious security with communication that's just about the same as for semi-honest security. Once we have that kind of compiler, we can focus on improving the efficiency of semi-honest protocols because we get malicious security for essentially the same cost, at least in communication. So that's our goal. Now, we have several flavors of malicious security. The first is security with the boards. So we had the semi-honest protocol, and we got an incorrect execution, so something was wrong. Now, what we want is to find who the bad guy was and kick him out. But with security with the boards, we ask everyone, are you the bad guy? Are you the bad guy? And we got, no, I'm sorry, I'm not the bad guy. In that case, we know there was a bad guy, but we don't know who, and we can't complete the protocol, so we avoid. And another flavor is full security. In the first case, the bad guy, he can't put any information on the inputs of the good guys, can't cause them to compute the wrong value, but he can cause a denial of service, right? There's no computation. With full security or guaranteed output delivery, the good guys, the honest guys, are going to get the output of the protocol. And what we want in this case is that in an incorrect execution, here's what we want. We want to find the bad guy, tolerate him, and throw eggs, rotten eggs, and vegetables at the person. We're not going to get that. What we will get is this. We're going to get two people. One of them is bad. The kid looks cute, but he's not. One of them is bad, and one of them is not bad, and we'll be able to remove both of them from the execution. So, assuming that we had an honest majority before we started with this with this idea and we remove the two people, one of which is bad, we're still going to have an honest majority and we can recompute the protocol. Okay, so here is one of our main tools, zero knowledge proofs. I assume that if you know it, but even if not, I'm going to just give a little taste of it. It's so good. So this idea was presented by Gilboa, Mikhail, and Rakov in the 80s. And the idea is as follows. We want to have a proof between a prover P and a verifier V that has three properties. Okay, so sorry. The prover wants to prove something, some statement to the verifier. They both have a shared input, in this case, the graph. And the prover wants to prove that the graph, some property on the graph, say that the graph is three-colored. That's a hard thing to compute, so maybe the verifier can't compute it itself. And we want the proof to have three properties, essentially not letting either guy cheat the other. So the proof is, first of all, it's complete. So if P is honest and V is honest, and so if P is honest and he wants to prove that G is three-colorable, then indeed it is three-colorable. In this case, P will be able to convince V. The second thing is soundness. So this is to prevent P from cheating. If P is dishonest and he's trying to prove that G is three-colorable when it isn't, then with very high probability, V will be able to determine that there's something wrong going on, and he'll be able to stop the protocol and say, no, you're cheating. And the third property is to prevent V from cheating. Even if V is dishonest, the only thing it learns is that G is three-colorable or not. It doesn't gain any other information on G or anything else. So that's zero knowledge. That's the idea. Here's the idea of the proof. It's very simple. Here's P and V. So what the prover does first is color the graph in three colors, right? 1, 2, 3. Red, blue, and green. And commits to the colors. And he sends the commitment to V. So it's a commitment. V can't open it, but P can't change the colors once they're committed. Okay, so V chooses some random edge and says, show me the colors. Open the commitment and show me what you stored there. So the prover says, okay, you chose one particular edge. I'll show you that the colors are different. So now the verifier has a little bit of information. He knows that P did not cheat on that edge. The colors are different, but that's just a bit. To get better probability of soundness, we have to repeat the whole process whatever number of times, polynomial number of times, and the probability of the prover cheating anywhere on that polynomial number of times is exponentially low. Okay, so that's zero knowledge. And what we want to do today is something that's similar, but not it. We want to do zero knowledge proofs on distributed data. So now we have the prover P, and it has the same kind of graph. But the verifiers do not have a graph. There is more than one verifier, say 2 in this instance, and they don't have the graph explicitly. They have a sharing of the graph. So maybe V1 has part of the graph and V2 has another part, and together they share the graph. And what we want to do is to have a protocol in which P proves not that either one separately is three-colorable, but that both together, maybe your sum is three-colorable. So V1 plus V2 is, excuse me, G1 plus G2 is three-colorable. And what properties do we want now? So we want completeness. So again, an honest P convinces two honest verifiers that what it said was true. We want soundness, at the same time like soundness, that a dishonest P rarely fools a pair of dishonest verifiers. And we want a stronger notion of zero knowledge. So we want a dishonest verifier, in this case, not only not to learn anything about the graph, we don't want it to learn anything about what the shear that the other verifier gives. Okay, so that's our goal, and we are going to use that in the context of MPC. Okay, now one special case which is going to be important for us is zero knowledge proofs on secret shared data. So the data is not just distributed, it's secret shared. So now we have two shares. So the prover has some x, and we're going to view the x as a vector over a field. The field is f, and there are n field elements together. They make up x. And x is shared, say, additively shared over this field. So the first verifier has x1, the second verifier has x2, and the sum is x. And the prover wants to prove the property of x, so that x is in some language. Okay, so here's the way we're going to do it. This is going to be our definition of our tool. It's a fully linear PCP. PCP is probabilistically checkable proofs. I'm going to show what linear PCP is, and then what fully linear PCP is. So this is a linear PCP. We have two parties. We have a prover up here and a verifier down here. And they both share some input, x. X is a vector over this field. And the prover wants to prove that x is in some image, right? It has some property. So it constructs a proof, pi, up here. That's pi. Now, usually in just general zero-knowledge proofs, maybe the prover would send pi to the verifier. But here, the verifier does not have access to the whole proof. It has only linear access to the proof. What does that mean? What the verifier does is construct a query. And the query is some vector over this field. The query is the same as the proof, which is also a vector over the field. And what the verifier receives is the inner product of the proof and the query. So it sends the query Q and gets back the inner product A, which is the inner product of Q and L. We have to satisfy the same notions of completeness, soundness, and zero knowledge, but with this linear approach. And now, so linear PCPs were well known before this recent line of work, and now I'm going to talk about something new, and this is a fully linear PCP. Now, here's the little difference. Notice that in linear PCPs, the verifier has an input. So it knows the input on which things are, for which things are verified. In fully linear PCP, the verifier does not have an input. And looking ahead, we're going to think about the situation where there's some information that's shared between two or more parties. Now, there's a prover who wants to prove something about this information. The prover knows what the information is because it's shared it between the parties. But each party separately doesn't have any information, just has a share. All of them together, okay, have this information. So that's exactly the situation we're going to be in. The prover knows the information, wants to prove something about it, sends distributed shares to all the other parties, and together they can verify the proof. Okay, so in this case, the verifier does not have the input, and what it does is constructs queries to a concatenation of the proof and the input. Linear queries. Again, same thing, linear over here, and it gets back inner products of the query and the proof. Okay, so bear with me while I try to, after Ben explained this wonderful technology, I want to try it out.
Don't worry.
Here's the query. This is the input, and this is the proof. And this is the inner product between the query and the concatenated input and proof. Great. Okay, we have some generalization of this process, which is sort of non-interactive. Here's this proof. You query, you get something back, it's one round, to a protocol with some back and forth. And the first thing was fully linear PCP, this is fully linear IOP. It doesn't matter that much except for the fact that we have several rounds in which the prover sends some information, gets a challenge from the verifier, sends some information again, and finally, the verifier has this list of messages it receives and inputs. It doesn't have them explicitly. It can query them with linear queries. Okay. So here's something I want to claim. If a language L has an efficient linear PCP or IOP, but let's consider PCP, it has an efficient zero-knowledge proof on distributed data. Okay, that's something I want to convince you. So we have the prover, and it has some data. And we have the verifiers, and they have the data, but in a distributed fashion. Here, one has one piece, and the other has another piece. You can simply share data where it's iteratively shared. The idea is very similar. And the prover wants to run a zero-knowledge proof in this setting. So here's what it does. It has a proof pi, right? Because we assume there's some efficient PCP. So it can produce this pi. It shares the pi. It takes pi and shares it into pi 1 and pi 2. And distributes pi 1 to v1 and pi 2 to v2. Okay, so now we have the proofs, and this is what they do. They generate the same query. Okay, they can do that because they have the same source of public randomness. So they generate the same query as they would for the PCP protocol. And now, the first guy computes the inner product of Q and X1, and the second guy computes the inner product of Q and X2. But their sum is now the inner product of Q and the sum of X1 and X2, which is actually X. This is the object that we want to prove. So, given this, we have an answer. Do it several times, we have all the answers we need to compute with very high probability to verify whether X is in the language or not. So now let's notice the communication. I'm not convinced of something that's, the whole point here is efficiency. The communication is low. It's the proof size. This is what the prover sent. And just a little bit of communication between the verifiers. So if the proof is short, and this is what we want to achieve, short PCP proofs, then the zero knowledge proof will be short. Okay, so here are some selected results from this line of work. So we have zero knowledge proofs, but our focus now is not zero knowledge proofs for very hard problems. I started with zero knowledge for 3 colorable graphs. That's a very hard problem. It's an NP. We want to have proofs now that are extremely short for very simple problems. Low degree polynomials. That's going to be our focus. So here is the first main theorem. Suppose that we have this language L, and it's recognized by an arithmetic circuit, a circuit with addition and multiplication over some field. And this circuit has a very specific structure. It's made up of 2 kinds of gates. One is a simple addition gate, but the other is some algebraic gate. I'm going to call it a G gate. And there are a bunch of these gates in the circuit. So that's the whole circuit, addition gates and G gates. Now, this is especially good for us if the G gate is kind of big. There are a lot of subgates in it, but the degree as a polynomial is low. Why is that good? We are going to show that in this case, this is the circuit. We have ZK proof on distributed data for this language L that has a constant number of rounds. It's going to be 2. And the communication cost is going to be the size of the gate, the size of the G gate, that's L, plus M, the number of gates times the degree. So if the degree is low, we're going to get something that's much smaller than the circuit size. And looking ahead to the MPC protocols, this is going to help us prove that everything done over the circuit in the semi-honest phase of the protocol was done correctly in a very efficient manner, much shorter than the circuit size itself. Okay, that was for a constant number of rounds, for 2 rounds. Here, using log n rounds in the same, sorry, not for any circuit, but if L has a degree 2 arithmetic circuit, which that's going to be our main focus of interest. So with log n rounds, we have communication cost that's logarithmic. It's tiny. And we have some trade-off for k rounds. We have communication cost that's kth root of n. We have some extensions to rings and to all kinds of circuits, but that's less important at the moment. Okay, so I talked about what we want to achieve. I talked about the theorems, and I feel there's skepticism in the audience saying things like, talk a lot, show us something. So I'll try to show you something. So here are some of the constructions. We haven't invented everything ourselves. Sadly, I want to say that we did. Some of these ideas go back to work in the 80s on some check protocols by Land et al. So similar ideas were used to improve inclusion of complexity classes for communication complexity proofs and so on. but the ideas are so good, I'm going to show them again, and we have our own little twist on some of the things. So here on the right is the circuit I promised you. It has two types of gates. It has an addition gate, or addition gates in plural, and G gates. And each G gate can be large, but hopefully the degree is kind of small. And this is here's what we want to prove. We want to prove that given this gate, given this circuit, and given an input x, the circuit on x will output 0. That's going to be our language. The language is all the inputs it's not in field elements, but vectors of field elements, all the inputs that the circuit accepts in the sense that it outputs 0. Okay, so here's what we do. First, we ordered the gates, some topological order. So here we don't have an order, now we do. Down below there's G1, and then G2, and G3, and so on. And then we define a set of polynomials. So here's our definition. We're working over a field, right? And we have an input x that enters into the circuit. And given this input x, it defines values on each of the wires. So now, given these values, I'm going to define polynomials. So here's the first polynomial, FL. I'm going to call it FL. And this polynomial is going to be determined by the values on all the left wires to all the gates. So I said there are n G gates. Each one has L inputs. So I'm going to have L different polynomials. And the first one is determined by the values of all the left wires. So here are all the left wires. And the first one, the way I'm going to define the polynomial is that its value at point 1, right, this is G1, is going to be the value of the wire, the left wire. And its value at point 2, G2, is going to be over here, right, this wire. And its value at point 3 is going to be this wire. Great. So that's the first polynomial. Here's the second one, Fn, all the middle inputs. So Fn at point 1 is going to be this wire, the middle polynomial entering into G1. And at point 2, this value on this wire, and at point 3, the value on this wire. And we can continue and define all these polynomials. So since each of the G gates in this example has 3 wires, we have it has 3 inputs. We have 3 polynomials: FL, Fn, and F right. Okay, and now we're going to define one more polynomial. Recall that G itself was some algebraic gate, right? It was some polynomial itself. So our last polynomial, P, is going to be the composition of G as a polynomial and all the polynomials we defined earlier. Now, these earlier polynomials sort of defined the inputs. The P polynomial defines the outputs. Why? What is P1? P1 is exactly the gate G on FL of 1, Fm of 1, and Fr of 1. But these are exactly the values entering into the gate G1. So P of 1 is going to be the output of G1. Same way, P2 is going to be the output of G2, P3 the output of G3, and P, the last gate, is going to be the output of circuits. So now, what we actually did is we represented the circuit in a different way by a polynomial. And the circuit's output 0 exactly at this polynomial p output 0 at this point. Right? If c of x equals 0, if p of this gate, the last gate, is 0. So now, to verify that the circuit output 0, we need to do the following. The prover sends p, okay, this polynomial. Its length is much shorter than the circuit. Its length is the number of g gates times the degree of g. It's smaller than the circuit, assuming that the degree of g is small. And the verifier checks two things. A, that p at this point is 0, and to block certain types of cheating, it checks that p of r at some random point is exactly what the g of these polynomials would have gone out. Okay, so the verifier work requires two things. Okay, this is everything it needs to do. This is what the verifier needs to do. So it requires two things. Interpolation of polynomials, because it's given the polynomials as points on at certain locations and has to interpolate the f polynomials and the p's, and evaluation of polynomials. But both of these operations are linear. So everything that the verifier does is linear. And if everything is linear, then we're going to be able to distribute the verifier into several verifiers, the same way I just described earlier.
Yeah. Doesn't the verifier also have to check that the output of that the inputs to a gate are the outputs of the corresponding gates that should go into the inputs of that gate? That the inputs of G3 are the outputs of G1 and G2 and
you're talking about this circuit.
Yeah,
this case.
But in general,
this check is going to test all of that at once. If there is a mismatch at some point, the chance that this will pass is very low. If there's this is a short symbol. If there is a mismatch, this polynomial and this polynomial are not the same. Okay, so their difference is a low-degree polynomial that's not 0. And if you check it on R, okay. Okay, so that was a theorem, and this is a corollary that's going to be very useful. If we have any degree 2 circuits, okay, so this is some whatever circuit that looks as if it's a polynomial with degree 2, then we're going to have a fully linear PCP that's this size, square root of the circuit size. How is that? We can view the circuit as an inner product. If it's a degree 2 circuit, an inner product of x and some large matrix A times x. And if it's an inner product, we can now divide the circuit into square root n gates, square root n g gates. Each g gate will basically be an inner product of square root n inputs. Now, since our what we had earlier is that the proof size is the number of GH, which is square root n times the degree of G, which in this case is only 2. We're going to have, if the whole proof is square root n. Okay, so we can also, as I stated earlier, we can repeat this log n rounds and have a very short proof, log n, but square root is going to be enough for most of what we need to do. Okay, now I want to go to the main part, or main goal, which is compiling an MPC protocol with a semi-honest adversary to an MPC protocol with malicious adversary using this machinery. So, what is the communication complexity of evaluating F? We have some circuits. Where we have the parties, we have some circuits evaluating the function F. And we have several different approaches to run this. One is by using homomorphic encryption. So asymptotically, the cost is low. Okay, the cost is some function of the input and the output, but it's based on very heavy cryptographic machinery. You've heard about this. So what people do when they actually want to run MPC, and they do care about efficiency, they run in interactive protocols. Again, in this setting of semi-honest or malicious. Here is one thing I hope the organizers aren't going to be very, very mad at me. This is about information theoretic cryptography. And we're in the middle of the talk, and I'm going to...
You're allowed to use a random walker.
I'm allowed to use a random walker?
Yeah, not a PLG, but a random walker.
Oh, okay. I've been given a waiver, so thank you. This is not actually non-information theoretic. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to compile now a protocol from weak or passive or semi-honest adversary to a strong or active adversary. Now, prior to our work, these kinds of protocols were known with communication complexity that actually one field element per gate per part. That's the best we know how to do for general circuits now. But this part, the active security, there was some cost in communication to pay. At least times 2, and often much more than that, times 40 or times 100, depending on the setting. What we want to do is get this to be as good as this, essentially. Small additive difference. So here are some of the results. I'm not going to talk about all of them. I'm just going to show one as a taste. So for general MPC, we compile from semi-honest to malicious. We have this very specific type of idea on which protocols can be compiled. So we call these protocols natural protocols. A better name, a slightly more fitting name would be unnatural protocols. But they're natural in the sense that many protocols in the literature follow this idea. I'll give some pointers about them. It's just this little caveat just means that there are some protocols, or we can think of some protocol for which the compiler would not work. We need semi-honest majority. Excuse me, honest majority, semi-honest adversary. And what we prove for any number of parties is security with the boards. And for a constant number of parties, full security. Okay, so if there's a constant number of parties, we can guarantee output delivery to the honest party. In this talk, I'm going to focus on specific constants, 3. It's not too bad. So we have 3 parties. One of them can be malicious, and we ensure that the honest parties get the actual output. The communication of the compiler is sublinear in the circuit size. So as long as semi-honest protocols are not better than circuit size, then this makes malicious communication to malicious case as good as communication to semi-honest case. And soundness is 1 over field size. Now, IPC protocols or circuits can be over various fields. We can have them over very small fields, say Boolean circuits. In that case, the soundness would be 1 over 2, which isn't good enough for us. But we can easily embed everything, not the whole protocol, not the semi-honest protocol, just the proof in a larger field, as large as we want, and get it down to 1 over field size with very little difference in the price. Okay, there even better communication for some specific MPC functionalities of interest. I won't go into it. This is a nice table showing how great we are compared to everything else. So here are numbers of various wonderful works, and this is our work. The lower the better, and this is like one field element per party per gate. That's what we want to achieve in the case of 3-party protocols. I'll get to that later on. Let's see the protocol. So I'm going to use as a basis the semi-honest protocol of Iraqi et al. From 2016. And here are several steps in which this protocol works. So we have this function f. 3 parties want to compute the function f. So they represent the function as a circuit. The circuit is arithmetic. It's over a field and has addition gates and multiplication gates. And here are the inputs. So just looking at the circuit, we push the inputs into the circuit, run the computation, and out comes over here, out comes the output f of the input. Okay, how do we do MPC for this? So we have several stages. So let's look at party 1. Let's look at one of its inputs. It's x. So the first thing it does is it is going to secret share its input. And the way it's going to secret share the input is using replication secret share, which I believe you've heard about. And if not, here's one. Here's a great introduction. So this is what it does. X is over the field. Party 1 chooses three field elements, A, B, and C, such that the sum of A, B, and C is X. And it provides 2 of these three elements to each of the parties. Party 1 gets A, B, party 2 B, C, and party 3 A, B, C. So each party separately doesn't have any information on X. It's missing one of the shares. All the parties do the same thing, right? X shared it into A, B, and C. Y shares, this is a horrible error. I hope you forgive me. It's not, the sum of D, E, and F is Y. It's not X. Y shares party 1 shares X into A, B, and C, party 2 shares Y into D, and F, and they share the elements. Step 2 of the protocol is to secret share zeros. This can be done information theoretically, but in that case, our efficiency is slightly worse. I was given a waiver from the organizers to use random oracles. So what we're going to do, I'm going to call the random oracles pseudo-random generators. It's over, right? So what we do is that every pair of parties share the same seed, okay? And given this seed, they can expand the same seed to a very long string. They both have the same string. And the other guy, the third guy, has no information on what they get. Well, it's totally random. So in this sense, they very efficiently share a very long vector of zeros because they have exactly the same vector. So these were steps 1 and 2, and now the parties are ready to evaluate the circuit. So we have two possible gates, right? Addition gate and multiplication. The addition gate, evaluating the addition gate is very easy. So we want to evaluate x plus y, right? And x is shared by A, B, and C, and y is shared by D and F. And here's what each party does. Originally, before evaluating the gates, party 1 had A and B from x, and D and E from y. So just adds them both together locally, A plus D and B plus C. Now, the next thing is that they still maintain the same sharing, right? Party 1 shared A with party 3, and now it shares A plus D with party 3. And party 1 shared B with party 2, and now shares B plus E with party 2. So they have the same share. They can do everything locally without any further bounding. The other thing they have to compute is multiplication gates. And this is a bit more of a problem. So we want to multiply A plus B plus C times D plus E plus F. Now, party 1 computes locally on it had 4 things, right? A, B, D, and E. So it can compute locally A times D plus E plus B times D plus E. And party 2 can compute locally, and party 3 can compute locally. Now, the sum of everything they computed is indeed x times 1. Anyone can verify it. But there is a problem. This is no longer what we want. Why? Instead of each share being shared between 2 parties, or being present in 2 parties, now each share is only local to 1 party. So multiplying again would be impossible. What can be done? Mask and reshape. So the easiest thing to do, say for party 2, was to take its share and share it with someone else. Just send it to someone else. But that would have been bad, because that already leaks information on what that party had initially. So what each party does is adds all these shares of zeros it has to its share, and then sends it to someone else. We have correct sharing after that step, and the correct sharing in the sense that the sum is still x times y, and each share is present at two different parties. So that's a rocket all.
With a typo, there's a student that is going to verify that just know there's a typo.
Here's a typo.
That's not x times y.
Is it a student?
I believe that.
Say this so they hear it on the
What?
say it aloud on
So I just received a comment. Someone actually verified that what I'm saying is true, and it turns out that I'm a cheater. So apparently, this is not really x times y. I promise to correct the slides immediately after the talk. Okay, so what we had so far is the following template. We had sequence shares of inputs. We generated shares of 0. We evaluated gate by gate. If it was addition, then local evaluation. And if it was products, then shared the cross terms by computing and masking. And then we got to the output gate and exchanged the final shares. The communication, we can go over all of them, but that's not really the point, would be exactly one field element per party per gate. Now, that was the semi-honest protocol. That was not our work. This was known 4 years ago. Now, what's my situation?
5-7 minutes.
5-7 minutes. Good. So that's going to work. Our point is to verify correct execution. Now, what happened during this protocol? What do we have to verify? Exactly the messages after the multiplication gate. So initially, we had 3 parties, and party 3 is going to reshare its message. Now, party 1 and 2 have all of this information. Jointly, they have exactly what party 3 has. Party 3 wants to share AF plus CD plus masks. Now, AF plus CD plus masks is some strange construct, but party 1 has A and D. Party 2 has C and F, and they have the 2 masks that party 3 has. So, looking at everything together, what party 3 wants to do is verify some function of degree 2 that's shared between the 2 other parties. And we want to do that for every gate in the circuit. So there are many gates, and looking at all of them, we're just looking at a degree 2 mapping of the information that party 3 has, and it's shared between party 1 and 2. Now, we know how to do that, as I showed earlier, with very low communication. So here's the way our 3 PC protocols work. First, there's semi-honest protocol. Then each party proves in zero knowledge that their messages were correct, and proves it in zero knowledge and very low communication. And finally, the final message is exchanged. In the final message, there are 2 shares. For each share is present at 2 different parties. So if one of them tries to lie, what happens is that that party and another party who has the same share are in conflict. Okay, so one of them says, I'm okay, the other guy's a cheater. And the other guy says, no, I'm good, I'm okay, and he's a cheater. So we have Alice, Bob, and Carol. Alice and Bob are fighting. Okay, each one's blaming the other that they're cheaters. So where does that leave us? Obviously, Carol is honest. We know that there was at most one dishonest party. It's one of Alice and Bob. And going back to my original picture, Alice and Bob are the two kids. One of them is mean, one of them is not mean, but obviously Carol is the adult in the room, and she can compute the output of the protocol and send the result over. Okay, so here's a short summary. We had fully linear PCPs. We can prove on secret shared data. We can also prove on committed or distributed data, but we use it for secret shared. We have a new compiler from passive to active security for 3DC and for more than that. And speaking about complete efficiency, this is something we checked. If we look at a circuit with 1 million gates, the extra communication we need for the proof is this much, half a kilobyte. So that's short. The actual communication we add is non-trivial. It's a number of field operations per gate, but the communication is by far the bottleneck in those protocols in almost all settings, so that's reasonable. And the soundness is good enough. I mean, with that kind of soundness, everything will work fine. Extending to more than 3 parties is a bit of a challenge. I'm not going to be talking about this stuff. Why is it a challenge? Well, A, if we have 3 parties, we had party 3 was trying to prove to party 1 and party 2 that its messages were consistent, that it was okay. Now, and we had one of two possible problems. Either party 3 proved it was a cheater, or party 2, one of the verifiers was a cheater. What happens with more than 3 parties, say 5 parties with 2 bad guys, is that a prover and a cheater can collaborate. And then we're not sure what to do. So that's one challenge. Another challenge is that with more than 3 parties, the prover no longer knows the whole statement it wants to prove on. And third challenge is that the replication-based secret share I showed, the share size grows exponentially with number of parties. So that at a certain point, that's going to be inefficient. We have an approach to distribute the prover. We have some results. Please stay tuned. It's not going to be in this talk. And the last thing I have to say is this.